Council colleagues and community, we're going to start tonight's meeting with a closed session. So we'll resume at 6 p.m. All right, team. So I'll see you on the other conference bridge. All right, good evening, everybody. I call to order our March 1st meeting. Right, so prior to tonight's meeting, the council had a closed session with our legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation, and there's no reportable action tonight from that closed session. So now, Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Yes, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Fernandez.
Present.
Councilmember Garcia Cadena.
Present.
Councilmember Landsberg.
Present.
Councilmember Stallard.
Here.
Mayor Vega.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And now, Councilmember Stallard, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Happy to do so. Shall we all stand, please? Cross our heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Stallard. All right, so now we're going to move on to item F, communications. So public comment, Madam Clerk, is there any public comment that was submitted for a topic not otherwise on tonight's agenda?
The only one we received was the usual speed limit removal email.
Oh my goodness.
And I will make a note of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and no, all right. So now council communication. So let's start off with Councilmember Garcia Cadena. Will you start us off tonight? I think you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry, I was hitting the wrong buttons here. Thank you, Mayor Vega. Tonight, I would like to express my gratitude to the staff and the administration, along with our police officers. Woodland High School was put on a lockdown today as a safety precaution. And I just want to express my appreciation for all of our staff and community members out there who are looking out for our young people. I appreciate them doing that. That's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stallard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of things. I would like to note with regret the passing of Joyce Rayleigh Teal. Joyce was the second generation of the Rayleigh's food stores and actually operated as chair of the board for 24 years. And she was a son of Mr. Rayleigh, and her son, Mike Teal, succeeded her and is now chairman of the board of Rayleigh's. But she was a very generous woman. She started Food for Families, which has served 42 million meals to those in need, among many other charitable things, including a major bequest to the Crocker Museum to enlarge it. So I mourn her passing and am grateful for all that she did for all the people in our region and for the two fine stores that her family continues to operate here. The only other thing I'd like to say is Benjamin Franklin said once the Constitution was completed, now you have a republic if you can keep it. I think we all need to remember that our democracy is fragile. It requires all our best efforts and care and concern, and those who supports organization and operating according to law need to respect it and take care of it. I say that in light of the fact that we're in the middle of a worldwide tragedy right now with an unchecked autocrat basically invading a peaceful people for no other reason than to enlarge his own personal power. And I'm so heartened by what I see happening around the world. And while we as a city might not have any particular ability to act on this, I hope all of us as citizens will. There are charitable groups that can be supported to help the Ukrainian people. And all of us, perhaps in our prayers and other ways, should support this effort. I just felt it required acknowledging tonight. Thank you. I have no further report.
Thank you, Councilmember Stallard. Councilmember Landsberg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. not much for me tonight other than this, a little happier note than that. I would like to extend an invitation to everyone to celebrate Woodland's 150th year with a grand event now scheduled for Friday, April 8 in downtown Woodland. I wish to thank the members of the 150th committee, which includes our council member, Tanya Garcia Cadena, for putting together a very packed night starting on 5 p.m. on Friday, April 8th. We're slated to have school bands, mariachi bands, fire dancing, so probably need Eric and his crew out there to make sure nothing bad happens. We're going to have a kids zone, antique fire trucks, Woodland street cruisers will be there, and more to come. Capping the night will be a really fun concert by Woodland's owned sold-out band. This will be a great evening for our city. We'll have much to do, and much to see, and much to enjoy as we celebrate Woodland's sesquicentennial. Easy for you guys to say. 150th year. That's all I have, Mayor.
Wonderful, Councilmember Stoller. That's very exciting. Long time coming. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Fernandez.
Thank you, Mayor Vega. Well, I just want to congratulate a few of our new employees with the Woodland Fire Department and Woodland PD that were just hired recently. So congratulations and welcome to the city of Woodland. I'd also like to acknowledge the tragedy that we had just yesterday in Sacramento. My thoughts and prayers go out to the mother who tragically lost her 3 children who were killed by their father. And it's just a reminder of how serious the implications of domestic violence are. And it's a tragedy. So my thoughts and prayers go out to that mother and a reminder that we have so many who suffer from domestic violence in our communities. On a brighter note, I'd like to remind everyone that tomorrow is Read Across America, and it'll be celebrated throughout our Woodland Joint Unified School District and other schools within our community. So hopefully some of you will be attending some of those sites to read to some of our young residents. And then finally, just a thank you to Representative Mike Thompson for his visit to the city of Woodland and his ability to spend some time and view some of our local, visit with some of our local business owners and our lab at AgStart, and I believe at Morgan's on Main. So thank you for taking the time to come out to visit. And thank you to Councilmember Stallard for reminding us and mentioning the tragedy that we're living through with the invasion of Ukraine. So thank you, and our thoughts and prayers are with that country and its residents and citizens. Thank you, and that will be it.
Thank you, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Fernandez. I will echo Councilmember Stallard and Councilmember Fernandez, just the coming together and unity and support for what's going on in Ukraine. I know we in the Sacramento region and within our community, we have many members from that region. So I just hope that we can all support each other, keep the prayers going, and if you're able to support some of these organizations, as Councilmember Stallard mentioned. For myself, I had the opportunity to attend the Woodland Joint Unified District board meeting. They recognize the fall and winter athletes. So I'm a proud mom of a wrestler, so I was able to attend, and I addressed the trustees and I thanked them for their service. They have had a challenging couple of years, and through that, I appreciate their leadership and their ability to continue to have sport. So that was a great for me to see them and to see all the young people come together. They were very, very excited to be recognized. I invited them to come to council meeting. I hope one day they will come. And all right, Councilmember Stallard, did you?
I wanted to make one more comment after you're completed with your report. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. Okay, and then again, just really want to also express my gratitude, as Council Member Garcia Cadena mentioned, to the support to the incident out at Woodland High, and then also there was another incident at Pioneer. So I just appreciate Chief Caff and your team coming to respond to the schools. Certainly when something happens at a school, it really puts all our communities on edge. So I appreciate the prompt response and also the communication afterwards. That'll be it for myself. So Councilmember Sollard.
Yes, Mayor Vega, thank you. I just want to acknowledge we have a special guest tonight with us. Our former long-term city attorney, Ann Saprell, is making a cameo appearance tonight to provide support for us. And we're so grateful to have you, Ann. And let us just say thank you for years of service you gave our city at an earlier time. And you'll probably notice we're a different council than you have.
Completely. And
but the world has moved on. Welcome.
Welcome, Ann. Thanks for spending this evening with us.
My pleasure.
All right. So I think that's Mr. Manager, your report, communication.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Madam Mayor. I do have a couple items to report. I'll start with just a quick check-in on COVID. As you, I'm sure, are all tracking, our numbers continue to trend positively, and we're now under what we refer to as the middle tier under the state's new tiered parameters. So trending in the right direction, still, however, present in our community, but trending positive. With this trend, the state has released new guidance that goes into effect today per the county's concurrence. Masking guidance that was released 2 weeks back, mandating masks for unvaccinated individuals in public indoors, has now been modified to simply be highly recommended for all individuals in a public setting. The mask requirements do continue, however, for healthcare, long-term care, correctional, childcare facilities, K-12, et cetera. We do note that beginning March 12th, Yolo County indicates that it will be aligning with the state's guidance for K-12, that they will strongly recommend masking for students in those environments, as well as childcare facilities. So again, sort of a demonstration that the health officials see the trend with the pandemic go in the right direction. So with that, and barring any state or county restrictions that would preclude otherwise, working with the mayor, we will resume city council meetings in person starting in April. So the first meeting in April will mark the first time the council has been together in a regular meeting in session. So we'll be working with IT to set up that in-person format and still accommodating some remote participation by the public. So look forward to that. That will also translate to our commissions as well. So we'll be working with the commissions and the staff to also resume to in-person meetings. And before we sort of move on and hopefully get past this last 2 years of COVID, I do want to just take one last time to acknowledge just the incredible effort that our staff here, the city, put in to sort of manage through this very unprecedented and difficult time. The leadership from the council has been tremendous. Our partnerships with the county level, this district's level, has been really profound and has really, I believe, grown us stronger together and developed deeper relationships that will help us move forward. But as pointed out with some of the remarks this evening, right, the lingering effects of what we've been through for the last 2 years are going to be there for a while. We'll need to continue to be mindful in how we help support our community and individuals that have been impacted, over the last 2 years, get restored to, a good place. And so with that, and on that note, we're looking forward to resuming some public celebrations and meeting. Councilmember Landsberg already spoke about the 150 celebration. We're super excited about bringing the community together to celebrate 150 year finally on April 8th. That will be followed quickly by the May 7th return of the California Honey Festival downtown on Saturday, May 7th. So the committee met last week and have now committed to launch fully into implementation mode for that festival. So we're bringing back those events, which we heard from the community that they missed so dearly, and looking forward to bringing those back, including this Friday. I want to remind everybody that First Friday downtown, will continue to be a bright spot for us. And we've got even more music planned for this Friday. So encouraged to see everybody downtown enjoying the music, participating in our restaurants and in retail. And two, I also want to thank Ann for filling in tonight for Ethan. It's good to finally meet you. I've heard your name so many times and seen it on a lot of documents here, so it's great to see the face. Quick check on long range. We'll have one more meeting in March before we go to in-person. The March 15th agenda will be starting to transition into a bit more substantive mode. We will have update on the American Rescue Plan funding framework, including a couple projects that we've been working on to fund through the support of the American Rescue Plan funding that we received. I will also be bringing back a summary of the council's retreats and an update to the council goals for your final concurrence, and look forward to sort of refocusing on some of those council priorities that have been set aside over the last year or two as we've been distracted with other responsibilities. And then also, as the council is well aware, animal services was a question mark in the fall, and wanting to get more information and data around how those animal services resources are being deployed in our community relative to other cities in the county. So we've been working with the county staff to develop a better understanding of how that data proves out, how the cost model has been developed over time, and whether it's time to relook at alternative strategies, both in the short term as well as long term. So we've invited the Sheriff's Office staff to come to a council meeting to participate in a presentation, but that will occur after we've worked through some remaining data requests that we've had. And then moving into April, we will have a spring budget workshop. That'll launch the council into an intense season of looking at how we will move forward with the budget in a 5-year forecast. And as you will learn later this evening, we continue to be in a very positive and favorable position relative to revenues and budgetary reserves. So we look forward to having a very thoughtful conversation with the council about how we strategically invest the financial resources that we've got at our disposal. And then as part of that, and as we heard at the council retreat yet again, the second pool complex project continues to be a high priority. So we will be on that first meeting in April presenting to the council recommendation to move forward with a consultant contract and a funding framework to deliver that project. So that concludes my updates this evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Manager. All right. And that brings us to item H, the consent calendar. Is there any council member that wishes to remove an item for further discussion or any questions? I have one. Item number 4, the March 2020 Women's History Month. So the recommendation, the proclamation rather, was added to your packet. And to this year's theme is women providing healing and promoting hope. So I will, if approved, I will be delivering this proclamation to some of our women's who lead up our healthcare organizations here in the community.
Good. I'll move the consent calendar if you're prepared for a motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I am. So let's see. All right, public comment? Any public comment before?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion by Councilmember Stallard.
Second by Fernandez.
All right, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Fernandez. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Fernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Garcia Cadena.
Aye.
Councilmember Landsberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Stallard.
Aye.
Mayor Vega.
Aye.
Item carries 5-0.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so now on to item I, reports for the city manager. So fiscal year 2021-22 mid-year budget update.
Great, thank you. And as Finance Officer Evis Morales pulls up his PowerPoint presentation, I'll provide some quick introductory remarks. And in case you didn't notice, this is somewhat of a two-part item. First item will provide an update on how we're trending for mid-year relative to the 21-22 budget. And we'll provide an insight into how both the costs and the revenues are trending and how we project to now end at the balance of this year. We also, as tradition has it, through the budget process, bring forward any mid-year budget augmentations or adjustments. And so the second part of Evis's presentation will address the recommended budget adjustments as part of our mid-year. So Evis, with that introduction, would you mind walking the council through the first item, which is the mid-year budget report?
Sure. Good evening, City Council. I'm hoping you guys can see my presentation. I just went ahead and shared it.
We can see it. Hi, Evis, welcome.
Perfect. Thank you. Like Ken said, tonight's presentation will revolve around the mid-year budget report, which is an informational report as to how we've been performing for the last 6 months since the beginning of the fiscal year, which starts on July 1st and goes through the first 6 months of December 31st, 2021. The first table you hear is our all funds revenue. And this is organized by revenue types. All funds through the second quarter of the fiscal year 2021-22 are $83.4 million or 45% of the amended budget. General fund revenues are $18.1 million or 31% of the amended budget, with many of the city's major tax revenues to be collected for the fiscal year. Revenues in the debt service fund category come from transfers from other funds, which are typically recorded at the end of the fiscal year. Spring Lake, you will notice that there's a huge variance there of about 325%, and that is due to the $22.0 million bond that was issued in October of this fiscal year. When we began working on this last fiscal year, but it wasn't until this fiscal year that we went ahead and issued those bonds. And lastly, on this table, agency, you will notice that we've only collected about 2%, which is $90,000. And these are agency funds represent our Melrose, our landscape and lighting assessments. And those are received with our property taxes, which come in January and May. So to date, everything that we've collected has been due to interest income on the bond reserve funds. The next table is all funds expenditures by fund type. In this tab, you'll notice that the general fund expenditures are again $25.1 million or 40% of the amended budget. All fund types are spending on or below the amended budget targets. You will notice that there are certain fund types that are spending low, and that is and these are your enterprise, your special revenue, your development capital funds, and these are tied to our capital improvement projects, which are initiated or incur costs based on construction schedules or seasons. And therefore, we're seeing low numbers in those categories at the moment. Our agency funds consist, again, of our Melrose and lighting and landscaping costs. And as you notice, we are already over budget by 126%. And this is due to all of the Melrose prepayments in Spring Lake that began in, I would say, about March of fiscal year 21 and continued through the deadline of mid-June of 21. The deadline was actually June 15th of 2021. We were not sure during the preparation of the fiscal year 22 budget, we weren't sure what that amount was going to be. So therefore, we didn't plan according to what the final amount was. However, we did have to make that bond payment in fiscal year 22, yet we received the revenue in fiscal year 21. We will be including a mid-year adjustment to account for that, which will align the agency budget to the actual expenditures. The next table is all funds expenditures by department. If you will notice, most of all of the departments are trending at target. There are a few variances. So for instance, with your administrative services budget, we're trending a little bit over the amended budget. And that's due to some insurance premiums that we have to pay at the beginning of the fiscal year. Our fire budget is also trending higher within the first 6 months of activity. And that's due to all the strike team activity to put out fires that have occurred during the summer in California. Public Works is also trending low compared to the amended budget. And that's because about $9.7 million in depreciation has not been recorded, and that won't happen until the end of the fiscal year. And lastly, non-departmental expenditures also appear to be tracking low. And this is due to transfers that normally occur towards the end of the fiscal year, but also included our American Rescue Plan expenditures that have not yet occurred and planned reimbursement to Spring Lake developers that staff anticipates will happen towards the end of the fiscal year. Table 4 is quite interesting. This is our general fund revenues by revenue type. So through the end of the second quarter FY for the fiscal year 21-22, general fund revenues total 18.1 million, or 31% of the amended budget. But based on information that we've gathered, and we are projecting that revenues will exceed the amended budget by $5.1 million by the end of the fiscal year. This is in part due to property taxes expected to exceed the budget by $263,000. Sales tax revenues expected to exceed the amended budget by $3.3 million. And this includes our Bradley Burns, which was our regular sales tax, which we expect to exceed by $2 million. $413,810 in Measure J, and lastly, $854,566 in Measure F. Other taxes, which include our transient occupancy taxes, have also rebounded from last year's figures and are projected to exceed the amended budget by $269,000. Lastly, service charges are comprised of revenues received from enrollment in various city recreational programs and activities. Revenue projections for the current fiscal year are expected to exceed the amended budget by $167,000. The increase in revenue is projected to come from park reservations, Brooks Pool, Community Fitness Center, and the sports park. The next table, table 5, is our general fund expenditures by category. So through the end of the second quarter, the general fund expenditures totaled $25.1 million, or 40% of the amended budget. You will notice that we've made expenditure projections within the general fund as well. And you will notice that most of these have an unfavorable variance. That said, most of these will be reflected in the mid-year adjustments report, and most of them do have a reimbursement or a revenue associated with them, which has a very little net impact to the general fund. So for instance, like I said, we are expecting some revenue, and in the personnel category, for instance, we are expecting about $713,000 in strike team reimbursements. In the operating transfers, about $854,000 of that is related to increased in revenue for Measure F that we then transfer out to the Measure F fund. So that's why you see some negatives. Most of these categories will have a mid-year adjustment that you will see in the next item. Table 6 is our general fund expenditures by department. And as you can tell, most departments are trending within budget target. There are a few variances as well. One of the first variances you'll notice is that administrative services is projected to come over budget by $55,000. This is due to a stormwater rate study that staff will be beginning this fiscal year. This requires an appropriation of $50,000, which you will see in the mid-year adjustments report. Fire is expected to exceed its budget by $1.2 million. Most of this has to do with strike team and urban search and rescue operations. These are reimbursable activities, and we are expecting about $717,000 in reimbursement for these activities. And included in that number is also a strike team reimbursement for equipment and administrative expenses of about $216,000. So in total of that $1.2 million for fire, we're expecting $934,000 in reimbursement. Lastly, the biggest number that you see there is, the second biggest number is the non-departmental category. And this is also comprised of transfers and some or personnel savings. As I said earlier, we plan for certain level of revenues that we transfer to another fund for Measure F. In this case, we're expecting $854,000 in increased revenue that will be transferred from the general fund to another Measure F fund. But also included in the non-departmental is when we plan the budget, we plan for salary savings, which we include as a negative number in the non-departmental category. However, as the year plays out, these personnel savings are reflected within the department budgets and not necessarily in the non-departmental. So you will notice, for instance, in police, you see about $317,000 in the anticipated savings. That number was planned in the non-departmental, but is being realized in the department category. So this is our last table regarding the mid-year information report. You will see about 5 columns here. The first column in green, that is our unaudited actuals for the fiscal year 2021. The second column, you will see the adopted budget for fiscal year 21-22. That's the budget that we adopted on July 1st when and the third column is your amended budget. The amended budget differs from the adopted budget in the fact that this includes not only your amended, your adopted budget, but any subsequent budget appropriations, including purchase order rollovers, carryover requests that the City Council has approved. And then your fourth column is your mid-year projection budget, which is comprised of your amended budget plus any staff projections that we foresee within the next 6 months. Lastly, the column, the very last column is your difference, and that is the difference between your mid-year projections and your amended budget. You will notice that we're anticipating revenues to be in excess of the amended budget by $5.1 million, expenditures to be in excess of the amended budget by $2.1 million. However, we will see a surplus of about $3 million. Your unreserved balance is expected to increase by that amount as well. So in the mid-year projections column, you will notice that the unreserved fund balance increasing to $21.3 million, which is about 38.1% of revenues. And your excess fund balance is about $10.1 million. I think it's important to note that when we adopted the budget, we anticipated a unreserved fund balance of $14.3 million or 27% of revenues with an excess of $3.9 million. Staff does intend to present different options and ideas to City Council through the development process of the fiscal year 22-23 budget in regards to fund balance and the best use for high priority needs. So with that, I will take any questions that City Council has for me.
Okay, thank you so much. Heavis, I appreciate that thorough overview that you always give. I have a question, and it's
Sure.
on slide 5.
Okay, let me flip
So-
back here.
Yes, it's regarding that's one more slide. Yeah, so
Oh.
table 4, slide 5. There we go.
Okay.
On the
Yes.
property tax revenues. So question I get often from constituents is,
Yes.
where's all the money going, right? They see the prices of homes going up. So their kind of question is, as those property taxes are increasing, how is the city's portion of the revenues grown? So can you talk a little bit to that?
Sure. So the city does have 3 major sources of revenue, one of which is property tax. And so the property tax does go into the general fund. It is counted as part of the larger revenues within the general fund. And really, it just on an annual basis, we take that money and we kind of allocate it to the various activities that are supported by the general fund. And that includes, your fire department, your police departments, your community development. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
So
okay. I was just going to add a little bit to that. So as individual properties are assessed their 1% base property tax, that 1% gets distributed to multiple different taxing entities. And depending on the area that the property is located within Woodland and when that area was annexed, it has a different property tax split relative to the other taxing jurisdictions and special districts. On average, citywide, of that 1% property tax that's paid, we receive around 18%. The newer parts of the community that are building out, where, Myra, you may get some questions from, those areas, particularly Spring Lake, actually have a much lower percentage that we collect of that 1%. It's actually just over 12%. So below the average. So every dollar that gets paid in that property tax category for these individual properties, we don't get all of that, right? We get a percentage and a small percentage of that. And as Evis indicated, we take that revenue and it goes into our general fund and is used for discretionary funding, primarily to public services. And as you saw in the budget line items, it's public safety, fire, right, are the 2 largest sources and uses of the funds for our discretionary general fund dollars.
Okay, all right, thank you for that, appreciate that. All right, colleagues, any questions?
I always like.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem Fernandez.
Go ahead, Mayor, Councilmember Stallard.
All right. I like to point out that the original purpose of property tax was theoretically to cover property-related services which cities provide. And at one time it did, but in the post-Prop 13 era, property taxes don't come close to covering the cost of property-related services. I don't know the exact numbers right now, but I usually think in terms of our police operation as being somewhere in the $16 million area. And you can realize if you look at property taxes of $14 million, property tax doesn't even pay for the operation of public safety in this community. Not even half, 2/3 of public safety, the police. The other third would be fire. So our former city manager used to say, we agree with people, you pay plenty of taxes. We just don't see that money at the city. We get 21 cents out of a property tax dollar. So you're seeing only 20% of what you pay in property taxes reflected in these numbers. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Stallard. Appreciate the history.
That's all I'm good for.
No. All right. Any other comments, questions? Mayor Pro Tem Fernandez, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Vega and Councilmember Stallard. We appreciate all of your experience, so it's greatly appreciated. I have a question regarding the other taxes. one of them is the transit occupancy tax.
Yes.
At one point, I believe we had a deferment on the hotels. Were those funds recuperated already, or will there be additional funding in that area?
Funny you ask, because today we just finished recuperating all the funds, and we are sending so part of that fund, part of those funds do get sent out to the county and then the Visitors Bureau. We will be sending out those checks with this week, but yes, we've recovered all of those funds that have been deferred.
So is it reflected in this amount or not yet?
It's probably missing 1 quarter.
Okay.
But for the most part, yes.
Okay.
Nothing else? All right, don't see any other questions. Do we have public comment?
No, none.
None? All right. So any of my colleagues want to make a motion?
We have to move it? I think it's reported.
We have just a report. Do we have to move it? No? Okay, so just accept the report.
Informational.
All right, on to item number 16. So it's the second part.
So complementing the mid-year budget information report is this mid-year budget adjustments report. I spoke to some of those adjustments within the informational report, but we will go ahead and touch on what those items are in summary. And if we can, and if the council would prefer, we can dive into the details of them. But so the first slide that I'm going to present to the city council is the citywide mid-years adjustment by fund. You will notice that we've listed every fund that is being recommended for an adjustment. So the total adjustment for all funds is $6.1 million with offsetting revenue of $5.3 million for a net impact of $825,000. You will notice that the 2 biggest categories are the general fund, which has a offsetting revenue of, an adjustment, a recommendation of $2.1 million. However, it has an offsetting revenue of $1.8 million, which is mostly comprised of the strike team reimbursement of about, I think, $934,000 is what we represented, and about $854,000 in increased revenue for Measure F. So the net impact is about $314,000 to the general fund. The next category is the Spring Lake debt service, and this represents all of those Melrose prepayments that we received last fiscal year. Like I mentioned before, we received the revenue in fiscal year 21, but we made the bond payment in fiscal year 22, and therefore a budget adjustment is required. Second part to this table includes a citywide fiscal year 22 mid-year full-time equivalent position changes table. Included within this which we refer to as an FTE, are various classifications. We're proposing to reduce 3 record specialists and increase 3 seniors record specialists. And the reason for this is that when we adopted the budget, we did recommend for the city council to approve 3 senior record specialist positions. However, the listing that was included with the budget recommendation only included the police record specialist positions. So this is merely a correction. Lastly, within the classification table is a housing analyst 1-2 position. This position went to city council, I think, last council meeting. We're recommending that we add this position to allow for some transition between the current housing analyst / senior planner and the new person that we're hoping to hire. This will allow for some continuity and some training. And I can move on to the next slide if the council wishes. The next slide is what's been attached in as Exhibit A within the staff report, which includes, and it's hard to see on the screen, but it includes all the major requests and adjustments that have been delineated within the staff report.
Please, I don't think I could read that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I'm sorry.
Tiny, but
Yeah,
it was all really clearly
Yes.
articulated in the staff report, so I appreciate it.
And if any of the council members have a question, I'd be open to answering any questions or gladly answer any questions.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Going back to the previous slide, the police record specialist -3, and you add 3C. I'm assuming those are the same 3 bodies.
They are the same 3 bodies. We just recommended for the approval of 3 records, but every time we take the budget for council approval in the June timeframe, we include a citywide full-time equivalent position listing. And we just made the error of including 3 record specialists, police record specialists, instead of the senior. So it's the same 3 bodies, net 0 add.
So net 0, how about cost-wise?
Cost-wise, we included the senior police record specialist cost.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Evis? No. Thank you for a thorough presentation, Evis, and giving us all the detail in the packet.
Thank you as well.
Okay, all right. So then for this item, is there an action from council?
If there's no public comment, Madam Mayor, I'm prepared to move the adoption of these mid-year adjustments as recommended by staff.
Okay, Madam Clerk, any public comment? No?
No public comment.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Stollard.
I will second.
Okay, so second by Councilmember Garcia Cadena. That's accepting fiscal year 2021 mid-year budget adjustments. Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Fernandez,
Aye.
Councilmember Garcia Cadena,
Aye.
Councilmember Landsberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Stallard,
Aye.
Mayor Vega.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that is the last item on our agenda. I have a memorial adjournment for this evening. Let me just read this, so bear with me. Okay, so
I have one too when you're ready for it.
okay, wonderful, thank you. So tonight we're adjourning in memory of Miss Marcelina Sandoval, resident of Woodland, passed away on February 16th. Miss Sandoval was a 2019 Community Service Award recipient. Ms. Sandoval was involved with volunteer work at Holy Rosary Catholic Church since the 1960s, where she provided minister training, catechism classes, communion to the elderly, including those in hospice care, migrant education classes, and tutoring to students. She offered rides to those children who needed dental and medical services, but had no way to travel to the clinics. She also volunteered at area shelters, feeding the homeless and families in need, and was a member of the St. Vincent de Paul Society. So Ms. Sandoval will be missed by many families whose lives she touched. Councilmember Landsberg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to add the name of Woodland resident Greg Gomez. Mr. Gomez, I've known Mr. Gomez for many, many years. He and his family were supporters and participants in the Woodland Music Boosters, which provides funding for our Woodland school kids for music instruments and music instruction for many, many years. Greg was an Air Force veteran and comes from a very large Woodland family. And many of us, if I gave you some names, you'd know them, but I'm not going to do that right now. This is about Greg. His wife, Marcy Gomez, will miss him very much, as well as his children and grandchildren. So I wish to acknowledge the passing of Greg Gomez. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Landsberg. Any others? No, I think there'll be, Mayor Pro Tem Fernandez?
I just had a question about the proclamation. Was that going to be done later or after?
Not tonight, afterwards.
Oh.
I'm going to deliver it to.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Up there.
I misunderstood. Okay.
No,
Thank you.
it's okay. All right, everybody. Well, Ann, I hope we didn't trouble you too much. We behaved well. We always do. Thank you.
Nice to see you all.
Yes, pleasure meeting you. Thanks again for being here. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys. Hopefully what will be the last time virtually next time we meet.
This one's only 50 minutes. What's going on here?
Yeah.
I know, it feels eerie, right?
I know.
I need more things to do there, Ken.
Enjoy your family and the dogs, Rich.
No, thank you. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Good
Thank
night,
you very
everybody.
much. Good night, everybody.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.